78, and we'll continue. We're still focused on the story of creation and filling in a lot of the vital details of how it all unfolded. Not in chronological order. The Bleiweiss has its own inner logic. I haven't figured out why it's not chronological entirely. I'm sure all of this could be explained. You could find the Yukim on the different sequence. Previously, we were talking about Adam and Chava's challenged relationship, in which she was in the previous metaphor was she was like a Gioris. That's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar's view. She was like a Gioris, a convert who was simply not given proper instructions. And so based on that metaphor, we find Adam being remiss. The following doesn't make Adam the bad guy. It's really Chava who comes out looking like she has two black eyes. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, that's the same Rashbi we were just discussing. I'll give you a parable. What is this like? Adam Rishon Dome le'echad shayalo isha besoch beiso. Adam is, the first man is similar to somebody who had a wife in his house.
A wife or his wife?
This is a wife. Again, this is a parable now. It's similar to a man who has a wife in his house.
Okay.
So we're not talking about Adam per se. We're talking about any generic man who has a wife in his house. What did this man do? Well, he did the logical thing under the circumstances. It's what any loving husband might set up. Actually, he doesn't come off looking so good too, I'm realizing. As follows. Halach. By the way, happy anniversary, sweetheart. My wife's in the other room, and it's our anniversary, and I'm not going to do this for you. Are you listening, Ima? Ima? Okay. What's that? Oh, it's tomorrow night. Okay. Oh, it's tomorrow night. Okay. All right. Me asa oso ha'ish. What did he do? Halach vehevi esachavis. He went and bought a barrel. I just got flowers. V'hiniach bo te'enim b'minyan ve'egozim b'minyan. He went and got figs and put a certain number of them in, and some egozim, nuts, walnuts, and put some of those in. Disappointingly, the article just refers you to hard to find Perush and says he explains the significance of those two things. I'm not sure what they are. Although egozim is what you give to little kids to play with on Pesach. And figs was according to one opinion, was the fruit with which they sinned. So perhaps that's the significance. V'tzad is ha'akrav unesano al pi hachavis. And then, of course, the logical thing. Under the circumstances, he caught a scorpion and he put it near the opening of the barrel on the inside. I mean, obviously, who would buy a barrel for his wife without putting a scorpion right near the opening? He put a big seal all around, real tight seal, and put it in the corner. Amarla, and he said, Biti, my daughter, Kol shieshli b'bayis hazeh masur biyadech. My daughter, everything that I have in this house is yours. Do what you'd like. Gesund hate bubble. Chutz, I added the bubble part that's not in the original. Chutz michavis zo shelo tigi ba kol ikar. Except for this barrel, please don't touch it at all. Me asusa ishahi. What did this woman do? Kevin shiyatsa ba'ila l'shuk. When her husband left to the market, Amda ufascha esachavis voshita yada l'socha va'akatzta akrav. She got up, she went to the barrel, opened it up, put her hand right in the side, and guess what? Scorpion stung her. Halchala v'nafla al hamita. Shabbos got real sick real quickly. She fell on her bed. Kevin shaba ba'ila mina shuk. When her husband came from the market, Amarla mazeh, what's happened to you? Why are you so sick? Amarlo yedi heishatati al hechavis. She said, I stretched my hand over the barrel. Interesting. That's a lie. Anybody's being medayik in the words. The words, the Bleiweiss had said earlier, Amdu faschas chavis voshita yada l'socha. She plunked her hand clear inside the barrel. Here in her rendition, she wants to make her sound more innocent. So she just said, I just put my hand nearby. I was dusting and I was in it. I can't believe something like this would happen to moi, she says. Yeah, I stretched my hand over the barrel, she says. Although the art scroll notes that some of the girsos have that she put it inside the barrel. Okay, so those would be more flattering to the woman. And then v'akatsasni akrav v'hareni mesa. And a scorpion stung me and now I'm dying. He said, didn't I tell you? Why didn't you follow instructions? He says. I think this would be another example. We brought this earlier of mansplain. Am I saying that correctly? He said, why didn't you just follow the directions? He says. By the way, don't give this one to feminists. They will not take kindly to this part of the brisa. But then again, I'm not saying it to feminists. Yeah, so I told you not to touch it. Miyad kasa lehavotsia. With that, he became angry with her and banished her from the house. That's really bad. Kick out a dying woman. Kach Adam Rishon dome. Thus, Adam Rishon is similar. B'shasha amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu mikol eitz hagan achol tochel me'eitz hadas tov v'ra lo sochal mimeno. Hashem commanded him, as we know, from every tree you can eat, gesund hate, but not from the eitz hadas tov v'ra. You're not allowed to eat from that. Ki biyom achalcha mimeno mos tamus. On that day, you're going to die. Kivin she'achal mimeno nitrad. As soon as he ate from it, he was expelled from Hashem's house, from Gan Eden. L'kayim ha'shenemar, and all of this last parable, summing up Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's parable, l'kayim ha'shenemar va'adam biker bal yolin nimshal gabehemos nidmu. It's a pasuk in Tehillim, and it says like this. It translates like this. It's to fulfill this idea that as for man, he does not remain in a state of glory overnight. He's likened to animals. So here, totally different insight, different focus altogether. I don't think Adam comes out so flatteringly. The woman certainly doesn't. Chava does not come out looking so great. Both of them apparently have an animalistic quality in this story, meaning lack of impulse control. And they don't last very long at all. In just a matter of minutes before, and that's clearly a meta theme here in all of this brisa. That the whole thing just happens, 1 hour to the next. The events just swiftly sweep them up, and within no time, they're gone. So much for Gan Eden in this world. Yitzchak Chaim?
When it says man does not remain in a state of glory, does that mean specifically like for man or for Adam?
Well, we were all Adam. A piece of each of us is in Adam. So Adam literally, had a moment of glory, and it was just a moment, and he blew it. I mean, he was completely animalistic, almost immediately, almost from the get-go.
I'm just not understanding what it means that man does not remain in a state of glory. Like, what message is that?
Meaning, when Hashem props us up, gives us everything we could possibly need, enables us to rise to the highest level, we have this tendency, like little children or like wild animals, to just give into our Yetzer Hara and to ruin everything.
Is that why we have to work for it? Because then it'll be hours, then we won't give into the Yetzer Hara?
For sure. I mean, it's setting up something kind of cosmic and fundamental about our plight in this world. That we have this, I mean, it's a major statement about the Yetzer Hara, that it's absolutely consuming, and our ability to keep anything nice is so precarious, so tenuous. We blow it almost immediately. That's the meta image here that comes through.
So we said that, like, Yetzer Hara, like I remember you said, like in the first hike we went on, when when I was in Israel, we told us Yetzer Hara has to be contained, and if it's not contained, it runs around like I
Well,
don't
you
know
know what
the
a great
hills.
metaphor for this is? Think about Motzi Yom Kippur. Motzi Yom Kippur. If you had
Uh,
a proper Yom Kippur, no, isn't this a great metaphor? You had a
yes.
proper Yom Kippur davening, your mamish like up there with the Malach Shares, everything's great. You run out, the first mitzvah, you go build a sukkah, gizvaldik, you're just flying, and then boom, Lashon Hara. Or something else, I don't know, substitute your favorite transgression. And then you look around and you think, how'd that just happen? What? How could I, that was just, I like barely had a chance.
Which
Well,
Yom Kippur
apparently the Bryce is
comes.
saying this is part of the human condition, all the way back to the first human beings.
So Yom Kippur comes. You're doing the Megillah. Everyone cries. Everyone, you get into it. You make letters. You don't.
We try.
What
We
do
do
you
our
do?
best. We do our best. Keep plugging on. Keep plugging on. Let's see. The Binyan Yoshua, who's a primary commentary on Avos Rabbi Nosson, asks, what's this all about? What are you supposed to learn from this? He gives one explanation. He says, he's I was focusing on one end. He's intrigued by something else altogether. He says, why are both Adam and Chava given a bunch of different curses when death was the punishment, no? I mean, previously they were not supposed to die, and now they're mortal. Now they're going to die. Isn't that punishment? He says, ingesting the fruit was like being stung by a scorpion. When you're stung by a scorpion, death isn't a punishment. It's a fact. So, but it's just poisoning. That's what's going to happen. So that's not a punishment. It's just a necessary outcome. He said the punishments that will come, they'll bring kapara. See, what we really need are kapara. Punishments are not punishments per se. Like we think of a punishment as like a parent's revenge. You do this to me, kid, I'll get you. Kind of a thing. That's not how Hashem operates. Punishments are actually privileges for us. Because when you get an onish, up to and including kares and misa and your miklat, you name it, every punishment, they all provide kapara. They give an atonement. They clean the slate for us. So the death was not a punishment because that was just going to happen. What do you expect? You needed for kapara something that was a little bit unusual. That's his approach. That's one approach. We have an alternate approach. He's addressing a different question. Adam worked actually after the sin, worked very hard. He worked on tshuva. Anybody know how many years? Very significant number.
130.
You got it. 130 years. The Gemara in Eruvin tells us, right? Right. To Kuf Lamed. Every time you find 130, you find the Eruv Rav, but that's another shiur, another discussion for another time. The question that's asked here by a number of the Mefarshim cited, including Rav Elchanan Wasserman, why was his tshuva somehow not good enough, and why didn't it get him out of death? So based on this parable we just read, again, death was the natural consequence, like we said, and tshuva could not undo that. I mean, with all respect, due respect to people who make tshuva, but sometimes a person's got to die to get the proper kapara. Okay. Now we're going back, since we see, we just talked about Adam's glory, his very, very finite, greatest moments in this world, our greatest moments when we actually were in Gan Eden, nothing better than that. We're now reviewing some of the days of the life of Adam to see how this actually came about as follows. So, and this is a little review, but a little bit, notice there's some new material. Bo b'yom notzar, on the day that he was, notzar means he was created, the article explains he was gathered together. Remember the dust from the four corners of the earth. Bo b'yom notzra suraso, on that day his form was made. Bo b'yom nase golem, then he was made into an unfinished kind of a clod of like clay almost. Bo b'yom niskashri evarov v'niftachu nekavav. Then in the next step, his limbs were connected, his openings were opened, his orifices were opened. Bo b'yom nitna neshama bo. On that day, the soul was breathed into him. Hashem, as it were, breathed into the soul. Bo b'yom amad al raglav. This is new. On that day, he stood on his feet. What does this mean? Life is pulsing through him. He stood up. Remember, this is in contrast. Creatures after this will not begin life like this. They will not be able to walk immediately. They're helpless infants, especially human beings. Interesting, of all the creatures, animals are relatively highly functioning at birth, but not human beings. We just, you put a newborn baby in the middle of the floor, it won't be able to fend for itself very, very long. But Adam, not like that. Adam stood up on his feet, fully alive, every fiber of his being, alive at the possibilities, looking around, probably having a higher sensory perception than any human being before or since. Not before, obviously, but since then. Everything was clear to him. He stood metaphorically from the heavens to the earth. Bo b'yom nizdavga lo Chava. On that day, Chava was paired with him, and depends which version of the story. The Brisa doesn't go into it, but they were created initially. We know du partzufi with two faces, back to back, according to one version. Hashem splits them. Alternately, it was a rib that was extracted. Chava was a rib extracted from him. Bo b'yom kara. You could look in the Gemara Neruvin for an elaboration on some of this. Bo b'yom kara shemos. On that day, he started calling the animals by their names. Another very significant chapter that Adam, that's literally in the Psukim, you can look it up, but what does it mean to call them names? A name, especially when you have Adam's spirituality, cuts into the essence of the being. It wasn't just a name. He understood primal, fundamental kind of understanding of each of Hashem's creatures. If that's not glory, then I don't know what is. Having that great perception, you can see everything and understand it intensely. Bo b'yom ichnisu legan Eden. On that day, Hashem brought him into Gan Eden. Bo b'yom tzivau. On that day, he commanded him, don't eat from that tree. Bo b'yom sarach. On that day, he blew it. Sarach means to spoil or to rotten, to go rotten. Bo b'yom nitrad. On that day, he was punished. He was kicked out of the garden. And again, if you blinked, you missed the whole thing. It was so quick, so rapid. To fulfill again the same verse that we quoted in the last parable, man does not remain in a state of glory overnight. What else happened on that day? Am I going too fast? This is good. I'm pausing when there's what to pause for. I'm also taking questions, like right now, for example. Yitzchak Chaim.
He had to die as a result of it, but nevertheless,
slower and enunciate. I'm not understanding. I'm sorry, it's my hang-up.
No, don't worry. He had to die as a result of what he did. That was a natural consequence, but nevertheless, right. Hashem forgave him with his tshuva, right?
Well, forgiveness is not the same as dying. There's consequences, and then there's kapara. These fill different roles.
For example, like I remember learning a Gemara where, it was for example, regarding cars, a person's cars will be forgiven, but the death penalty will not be forgiven. Will not be, and the person's going to go death penalty, but the cars can be annulled. So it's over here, but so I'm saying Adam, Hashem forgave him for what he did, and he still had to die as a result. Is that what happened?
Yes, I think that's a fair summation.
Okay.
Bo b'yom alu lamita shnayim v'yardu arba. On that day, they went up into the bed as 2 and came down as 4. By this calculation, Cain and Hevel were not twins. Cain was born first with a twin sister, and that's the 4. And that was real quick. And smoothest pregnancy in this world, right? It took no effort, no pain, right? This is all before the sin, as understood by the Brisa. Bo b'yom nigzru al Adam. Oh, excuse me. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer. We have a different view here. Bobiyom alu lamita shnayim v'yardu shisha. On that day, they went into the bed 2 and they came down as 6. And according to an alternate girsa, 7. In this case, Adam and Hevel were indeed twins. At least they were born simultaneously, but not just twins. They were either sextuplets or 7 would be
Septuplets.
right.
Septuplets.
Septuplets. That's the word I was seeking. Thank you for that, Ari. Septuplets. How would that be? Well, Cain had 1 twin sister, and Hevel had 2. Okay, one big happy family, presto. They were the women with whom they would eventually cohabit, and have children. These twin sisters. Bobium nigzer al Adam shalosh gzeros. On that day, 3 decrees were passed against Adam. That's sin. Shinemar, and finally we're reckoning with Adam's punishments. Shinemar ula Adam amar ki shemata lekol ishtecha, because you listen to your wife's voice. Arura ha'adama ba'avurecha be'itzavon tochalena. The land is cursed because of you, and you're going to suffer. That's how you're going to eat from it. That's all the verse. Notice here, it's not really Adam's curse, it's Adam's curse. I refer you to one of my favorite pieces, which is the Orach Chaim Kadosh on Breishis, on the first parsha. I won't do it right now. Most of you maybe even remember it, because I always like to talk about it. The first murder mystery. Who killed Hevel? Anybody know? Anybody remember this? What?
Oh, who killed Hevel?
Who killed Hevel? Anybody?
Oh, I remember a whole thing about this. I just don't remember who.
I would say Cain, but I feel like I'd be falling into a trap.
You obviously have not read enough Agatha Christie books, have you? Right. Somebody's got to say it. Cain, for crying out loud. I mean, it says it in the pasuk, doesn't it? Doesn't it? No, it doesn't. Anyway, I refer you to the Orach Chaim Kadosh for a wowzer, in which he develops this. Cain was certainly an accomplice, but the murderer. A drum roll, please. Ellie, do you have any idea who murdered Hevel? This is so good. And I really did this badly. If anybody's paying attention, I set the whole thing up and gave away the answer already. No? Okay. The Adama done it. The land did it itself. Ha'adama asher patzasa espia. The pasuk says explicitly. The ground swelled and opened its mouth, like we just had in Parshas Korach, and swallowed Hevel. I mean, it's true that Cain went through all of the process. He didn't know which part of the body to stab, so the neshama would go out. So he set him up, but ultimately it was the ground that swallowed him. But the way the Orach Chaim is not just being cute, chas v'shalom, his purpose is not to be cute in life, nor any of us. What he's talking about, actually develops this throughout his commentary, is how when Adam sins, that reverberates and infects everything and everybody around him and brings them all down simultaneously. So as Adam becomes progressively more corrupt, and Orach Chaim actually tracks this throughout Parshas Breishis and Noach, Adam gets progressively corrupt. There's a general decline that actually affects the Adama too. And so here we find the Adam itself gets cursed. And instead of yielding all this outstanding produce that's perfectly nutritious, kotz v'dardarim tatzmiach lach. They're going to be thorns and thistles that come up. And it's going to cause a lot of suffering. It's not going to be easy to earn your daily bread, men. Yeah, lots of hard work, lots of toil to do this, and today it's just a lot of humiliation in the stock exchange, or whatever the equivalent of our parnasa is nowadays, or if there is indeed parnasa nowadays, which I can't take for granted in Corona days.
Is there what to be said about that? For example, we know that when Noah was born, he was in the Noah because at that point the ground stopped producing thistles, or alternatively he developed a plow. Is there what to be said about nowadays how not many of us are in agriculture in the same way that our ancestors used to be?
Yeah, there is a lot to be said for that. You're saying that we've improved?
Potentially. I mean, obviously, I don't know, but like,
I don't know. I think you could read it either way. I think it's there's a greater inherent spirituality when you're connected to the land. You're fromer. Look at the Gemara in Tainis. When you realize when you're davening for water because this year's crops may not survive, please Hashem make it rain. You're much more dependent on Hashem, dependent on Hashem. Whereas when you're in high tech and you could just go down to the local grocery store and buy your daily meal, you don't feel it as much. You feel that, we don't need Hashem all that much, chas v'shalom. So I think that's to our detriment, not really to our benefit.
Plus, they also seem to have, I guess, also whilst growing things, but they also seem to have a lot more time to themselves, to meditate. Things were...
You're saying, people who are into agriculture, for sure. I mean, not coincidentally, consider this. All of the major figures, our forefathers, our foremothers, Moshe Rabbeinu, they were all shepherds, every last one of them. Roed Son. And like you're saying, they had time to contemplate. They're very connected to the land. Very humble as a result of it makes you earthy. It makes you realize where you come from and where you're going to. No illusions about yourself. When you're CEO of a major conglomeration, it's kind of hard to remember all that stuff. Yeah, so so the ground is going to be cursed. It's going to be we're going to have to work very hard to get anything from it. Thorns and thistles are going to sprout for you. You're going to eat the herbs of the fields. What's wrong with that? I know some vegetarians who do great things with herbs, right? Make a nice stir fry. I don't know. Well, no, it turns out that this is animal food, and it's quite a come down from Adam's diet. Adam used to eat the sublime food of Gan Eden. It tasted like all the greatest delights that this world has to offer, something that probably we can't even imagine. And now he's going to have to be disgraced. He's going to have to eat the food of animals, dog food. And another explanation is going to have to graze. He's going to have to go out there and take it, take it like an animal too, not just eat it. Not only what he's eating, but how he'll have to go about eating it. And what does it mean? The next verse says, by the sweat of your brow, you're going to eat bread. Or if he's going to subsist on thorns and thistles instead of wheat, well, then how is he going to be eating bread by the sweat of his brow? Okay, the Brisa answers, Kavan sheshama Adam arishon she'amar lo kadosh baruch hu v'achalta es esav asada. When Adam heard Hashem tell him that you're going to eat from the herbs of the fields, miyad nizdazu evarav, his whole body, his limbs of his body started trembling and petrified. Amar lefan ribono shel, he said, Master of the universe, aniu vehemti nochal be'evus echad. What, me and my animal were going to feed from the same feeding trough? Ichs. And obviously it's more than just his dignity, right? He thought that by sharing, he'd actually become like the animals himself in a new variation on the old saying, you are what you eat. The food really does come to shape us. And if that's what the animals are eating and you see how they're behaving, oh no, I'm in trouble, Adam's thinking. So human beings are given bread being the most transcendent kind of food. It's like in man, for example, is often referred to in the psukim as lechem, to illustrate just how spiritual bread is. So Adam is concerned, and he expresses to Hashem in a sincere tefillah. Hashem loves our sincere tefillahs as follows: Amar lo kadosh baruch hu, because all of your limbs trembled, I saw that you're very genuine in not only in your tefillah, but also in your desire to retain your humanity. I'm adding. That's very noble, that you don't want to be, when Hashem sees that we're davening for things that are by inherently spiritual, well, he listens more. He accepts that. He sees we're really striving. Okay, we're down here in the muck and the mire. We're struggling like crazy to lead decent lives. And if anything, give us a hand. Give us a hoist up there. Please, Hashem, we need your help. And Hashem is receptive. And he says, because you really genuinely were trembling, you'll eat bread. It'll be by the sweat of your brow. It's not going to be easy, mind you. You're going to have to earn it and make your kapara, make your atonement, but I'll give you bread so that you should be above the animals.
I'm just curious, Rabbi. You said bread is a very spiritual food, and
Yep.
it definitely seems to be a very staple food. I guess I'd be interested in what's intrinsically spiritual about bread.
It, in many ways, reflects the partnership in creation because the raw ingredients provided by Hashem, but it takes, and this is similar, parallel in many ways to the wine, it takes human ingenuity to go through what turn out to be 11 of the steps that are 11 of the malachos of Shabbos Kodesh, from the plowing, the harvesting, all the way to the winnowing and the grinding, and eventually presto, there's bread, but not presto at all. It's quite a process that requires human involvement, human endeavor. So that's really a metaphor in many ways for what we're doing in this planet. We take the raw ingredients Hashem provides, and we take it, we elevate it to something greater. There's a lot more on bread. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Galeb Shlita just put out a really nice piece on bread. I think it was on, maybe not just, because it was Shvishal Pesach. He was celebrating bread, and he had a nice, typically source-loaded shiur. Anybody have it or see it?
Yeah.
Very good. I mean, I glanced at it briefly. I probably should have gone over it in more depth, but it was very good, and it gives more elaborate.
Where does he post them to?
Where does he post them to? Derek's group chats, somewhere out there in WhatsApp land, something I'm not quite.
Are they on the Derek Drive?
I got it in an email. I already deleted it, but I might be able to dig it up and send it to you if you want.
Oh, that's really nice. Maybe if you find it,
or I could literally just email Rabbi Gallup for that.
You could certainly do that.
Yeah, I think I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. A comment from the commentary called the Megain Avos. He says, what started out as a harsh punishment because of Adam's sincere tefillah turned into a mitigated punishment that was also partly a blessing. We apparently have that ability. We see that several times in the Torah too, where Hashem is prepared, as it were, to do something much more severe, and usually it's Moshe Rabbeinu who intervenes, and Hashem accepts the tefillah. It was Avraham Avinu who also intervened in the case of Sodom, or at least there was an attempt to do so. But all of that is a message to us to daven, and daven sincerely for loftier kinds of goals. And just like there are 3 decrees on Adam, so too there are 3 on Chava, to which we're immediately thinking, hey, wait, in this brisa, a couple days ago, we reviewed the 10 curses of Chava. What's the contradiction? Sometimes we see that the Mishnah, this is a Guttic style brises, and not all of them are in sync one with the other. Either they're different people, different opinions. In this case, they're both anonymous, but they could be different Tanaim who are articulating this, or they're highlighting certain differences. The Binyan Yoshua tells us, in this case, of the 10 that we learned before, 7 of them could be learned as alternately curses, but really blessings. I really emphasized this when I presented it too, that many of them, like covering the hair, for example, but that's really her dignity, and many other such curses that are also really simultaneously blessings. These 3 are uniformly curses as follows. Shenemar ela isha amar harbe harbe itzfonech vehironech be'etzev tel divanim. All familiar. I'm not going to dwell here unless somebody wants me to. To the woman, he said, "I will increase your suffering and your and anything to do with your pregnancy. In pain, you're going to bear children." Bismanja isha ro adam nidosa b'tchilas vista koshela. When a woman discharges menstrual blood at the beginning, it's going to be a source of pain for her. Rav Wolbe says a woman can walk over at such a stage and put her hand up to flowers, and flowers often wilt. she emits toxins in the air. So that can't feel all that pleasant. Some women have it much more severely than others, but I don't think anybody says that they enjoy it. Right. Then it says, when a woman, what does it mean that I'll increase? When a woman has relations for the first time, it induces some pain. We talked about that. This is a new idea. When she becomes pregnant, when she suffers, her face becomes ugly and devoid of, ArtScroll has a nice translation, sallow, which means all the blood rushes out. She becomes pale and sickly looking. Interesting concept. That's what the Bleiweiss at least defines as the first 3 months of pregnancy. It's interesting. I mean, maybe it was just after a nice bout of morning sickness. Women tend not to look at their most beautiful after having just lost their last night's dinner. But it's interesting because I'm remembering one of my Rabbi once said that he finds that women, maybe he's referring, maybe this is later in pregnancy. I think this is generally true. I don't know. I'm not a student of this, but it seems to me accurate that later in pregnancy, women often thrive and blossom, that there's something very fulfilled in her whole demeanor. She's carrying new life. And on a primal level, that's what a woman is here for. She wants to give, she wants to nurture, and so on. But evidently that's later, but she's got to pay the dues. So early on, morning sickness and the like, I guess, makes her not the most attractive.
It's interesting that after the 9 months of pain, they want to do it again.
It's louder, I didn't hear.
It's interesting that after 9 months of all these pains and hardships, they want to do it again. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Well, not initially, the Gemara says. Well, actually, I think this is coming up. The oh no, it's not. It's my Gemara in Shavuos. I'm learning too much these days. It's all kind of like forming a big blur in my mind. The Gemara in Shavuos, I think, says this, that she, after in the throes of labor pains, might scream out, "I'm never doing this again." And that's why she should bring a korban chatas. Yeah. But you're right. Shortly thereafter, how quickly we forget. She says, "Let's do this again." That motherly feeling, and really, when that feeling after intense pain and suffering, and sometimes, really extreme. But then the baby's nursing right there, and cute little thing, and she heaves this big sigh of relief and feels alive. Some women say for the first time ever. This is what it's about.
As a man,
and we don't have this. Men don't have anything equivalent to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a one of the spiritual peaks. Hard earned. The Brisa now focuses on Adam's remorse and humility after the sin. Kevan Shabal Eis Erev. Oh, here it is. This is the part we've been waiting for. We got to it tonight. I haven't looked at this. Well, that's not true. I think I might have looked this up once or twice. I've been saying it over so many years. I remember learning it for the first time and thinking, wow. Kevan Shabal Eis Erev. When the evening came that day, obviously it's Shabbos Kodesh, Ra Adam Arishon, Es Ha'olam Klape Marav Shemachshich Uva. Adam, the first man, saw the world getting progressively darker. The sun descending toward the horizon in the west. Keep in mind, this had never happened before, not having experienced a sunset before. So Adam wasn't sure what it was. According to the Brisa in Avos Rabbi Nosson, Adam didn't understand the implications. and he thought the worst. Anybody remember this?
Yeah, I do remember learning this at some point.
I've said it over. I don't know if it's from me. You might remember it, but I definitely say this one over a lot. Amar oili ki bishvil sesarachti HaKadosh Baruch Hu machshich alai es ha'olam. What a humble statement. He just assumes that he's responsible for all the worst things. He figured that since the death sentence was now decreed against him, it actually means, and the Gemara in Avodah Zarah really elaborates on this, it actually means the whole world was coming to an end. He says, woe is me, because I've sinned, Hashem is now making the world dark because of me. And the Gemara adds there in Avodah Zarah that Adam, thinking that his end was coming near, he fasted, he wept, and he sat in great humility and contrition all night long. Chava did the same, sitting opposite, and she wept as well. The Gemara fills in. Brysa points out, of course, he had never known nice, so he didn't know that this is the way of the world. Some great footnotes here. I'm not going to get through this tonight. That's okay. We'll do half of it now and half of it then. I don't want to rush it. It's too good. There's a question about how if Adam was like a malach, was like an angel in his wisdom and his greatness, how could he have not known something so basic? I mean, okay, so he had never experienced it, but he had vast knowledge of all kinds of things, certainly basic science. So he wouldn't know such a thing. Ritva asked this question. So here's an answer from the Chidah. The original heavenly light, which remember came out, it was from the first day of creation, but it was kept the world illuminated from Friday morning until the end of Shabbos. And that light, anybody know how long that was burning? It's a very famous light. For 36 hours, very significant light. It was hidden away later on. It's called the Or HaGanuz. 36 is important. Every time you see that number, it's a reference to the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light. So Adam knew that the world alternated between night and day during the 6 days of creation, but he inferred that from the absence of the darkness on Friday night, that from then on, with the work creation completed, the world had moved into a state of perpetual day. If so, the darkening night could only be a result of his sin and a sign of doom. It's the Chidah, and you can hear I have a problem with this. Because if it's right after the sin and it all happened on the first day, that first day when it's getting dark is Shabbos, is that night. So I can't reconcile that. It's just a kasha. Maybe those two positions just don't stim one with the other. Oh, and yeah, the article is so helpful. It comments, it says, this explanation assumes that the incident recorded here took place on Shabbos night and Sunday morning, not on Friday night and Shabbos morning. But that, I don't think it's a good explanation. I think you'll see in the continuation of the Brisa why. I'm not pleased with this explanation because the Brisa, I think, very much assumes that it is on Shabbos that all this is taking place. So it's possible you could say that Adam simply didn't know it. Hashem gave him access to certain knowledge and other knowledge not. The Brisa continues. L'shachris, kevin shara olam shemer uvala mizrach. When the morning came, he saw that the world was progressively becoming lighter from the eastern horizon. Samach simcha gedola. He became extremely happy. He realized that through Hashem's chesed, that darkness that he thought was going to be permanent was now really all just part of a daily cycle. Amad uvana mizbachos, he got up and immediately built altars. Where did he build the altars, by the way? To sacrifice to God. Little place called Rabbi in Yerushalayim. I'm adding that, it's not here.
Rob, what if he prayed and then due to that prayer like the light came, is couldn't it all have also been that?
Yeah, that's clear that he did pray. That's clear that he did pray. And we're not going to get to it tonight. I see it's in a continuation. This is an extensive story, but so as to kind of put all this together and really answer your question, Eden, there's a very famous pasuk that Adam Arishon is credited with writing. David HaMelech later put it down in his Tehillim. But remember that not all of Tehillim is originally written by David. There were 10 different authors that wrote their respective chapters, and those were all through Nevuah brought to David. Anybody know the chapter in Tehillim that Adam wrote that actually play by play describes what we just said? Go ahead, Eitan, you've been waiting.
Tehillim Sadi Beis.
Oh, yeah, I have it in front of it. Did you know without cheating?
I mean, yeah, Rabbi. I actually remember. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember that it was in the Derech Sukkah that Rabbi told us this like a brisa.
And what's the pasuk? Say it out for us.
And should I do it the NCSY way or just say
it? Any which way, just say it.
The Tov L'Hodos /Shem L'Zamar.
No, but you're skipping.
Oh.
Mizmor Shiur Liyom HaShabbos Tov L'Hodos LaShem U'Lezamer L'Shimcha Elyon Lagid Baboker Chazdecha Ve'emunascha Balelos. I mean, all this, we're going to do this in greater detail tomorrow, but since we're rounding it out for tonight, I'll give you this. Mizmor Shiur, it's the first real song written in humanity. Liyom Shabbos, because the day is Shabbos. That's why I couldn't accept the Chidah's explanation that it took place after Shabbos. Clearly it's on Shabbos that this is happening. Tov L'Hodos LaShem, the first gratitude expressed is the morning when the sun rises. And Adam doesn't feel he's even deserving of this, and thank you, Hashem. Ulazamer L'Shimcha Elyon, to sing out to your great name. L'hagid baboker chasdecha, to proclaim your chesed in the morning, because chesed happens when we really see chesed when we don't deserve it. Adam didn't feel worthy, and Hashem did anyway. Ve'munascha balelos, because all night long he had emunah, he fasted, he davened. Please Hashem, I'm deeply remorseful. He was, and Hashem listened and he gave. By the way, there's a special magic. I often say this in the context of davening vasikin, davening Netzachama, especially on Shabbos Kodesh. That's when Adam, of course, experienced all this, because he sees those rays of light in the eastern horizon come up. And he thinks, could it be? It's too much. I don't deserve this. And the thrill, the excitement that he must have felt, davening Nates. That person who has this in mind when he davens Nates, chances are you won't have too many more powerful davening experiences than that.
Rabbi, isn't it quite debated whether Mizmor Shiur Shabbos came from Adam or maybe Moshe?
Whether that chapter Tehillim comes from Adam?
Yeah.
Go find me the source where it comes from Moshe. I'm unfamiliar.
Well, I do know that
here it's definitive. Here it's definitive. It's from Adam. I think elsewhere too. It's from, I think, in Baba Basra. Baba Basra in the first chapter also credits it to Adam, if I'm not mistaken.
Isn't it said that the capital chapters from Tzaddik to Kuf?
Find it for me. If you would, if you find it and bring it to the discussion. I should take a break now so we can prepare for some Gemara.
Thank you.
And Yitzchak Chaim, I was going to talk about Shaitels. Did you read the article I sent you?
So I didn't have time. I was just coming back, but
take a look and then remind me first thing tomorrow, so we can go into it. It's interesting discussion. Are Shaitels today still a problem of Avodah Zarah or not? And I have what to respond.
I will look at it right now, actually.
Yeah, great, fantastic.
Rabbi, quick question.
What?
Rabbi mentioned that Adam Rishon built the Mizbeach on Bleiweiss, but does Rabbi have a source for that?
Send me a note, I'll look it up. I have a source, sure.
Okay.
Because they all did. Noach did. I think it's Gemara in Yuma.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
See you probably soon, it looks like, with this group. Okay, bye.